Hello everybody. Modern-day Tbilisi is widely recognized as a historic city blending Eastern European elegance with Middle Eastern charm. But few know that this city was once the heart of Islamic rule in the Caucasus. Over 1,000 years ago, when much of Europe was still cloaked in darkness, the adhan echoed 5 times a day from the minarets of Tbilisi, a fact now almost erased from the city's collective memory. In 736 CE, forces from the Umayyad Caliphate conquered the city and established what would come to be known as the Emirate of Tbilisi. But this was no mere colonial outpost. It became a vibrant center of trade, scholarship, and Islamic culture nestled in the Caucasus Mountains. Mathematicians, poets, merchants, and scholars passed through its gates from Baghdad, Bukhara, and Damascus. Like all great chapters of history, however, its glory was not to last. As Christian dynasties rose in Georgia and its surrounding regions, the emirate began to lose ground. Its final blow came in the 11th century, when King Bagrat IV launched a massive campaign and captured the city. Islamic symbols were destroyed or repurposed, mosques were converted into churches, Arabic manuscripts were burned or locked away from public view. For centuries, the Islamic identity of Tbilisi was buried deep beneath layers of rewritten history. But history never truly dies, it merely sleeps. And now, in the early 21st century, there are signs that it may be waking up. At the heart of Tbilisi's Old Town stands the only mosque still active today, the Juma Mosque, rebuilt in the 19th century, but believed to rest atop the ruins of a much older structure dating back to the Emirate era. Strikingly, this mosque is shared by both Sunni and Shia Muslims, something exceptionally rare in the modern Islamic world. Could this be a sign that the Islamic soul of the city was never truly lost? Beneath the city, archaeologists have unearthed remnants of Abbasid-style buildings, gold coins with Arabic calligraphy, and ceramics indicating trade with Basra and Kufa. Yet these artifacts are often displayed in silence, tucked away in museum corners without adequate explanation, as though the past is too delicate to confront. But a new generation has its own way of unearthing what was hidden. Social media, online forums, and independent documentaries are starting to shine light on this obscured history. Curiosity is growing. Who truly founded the city? What really happened to the Islamic legacy once so central to its soul? Some young Georgian historians are beginning to ask these very questions. One of them is Levan Mukhtaridze, a researcher at Tbilisi University who wrote a controversial thesis titled The Forgotten Emirate, Tbilisi under Islamic Rule. In an interview with local media, he said, "What we call the history of Georgia is a narrative built in the aftermath of conquest. We forget that there was a chapter in which Islam was part of this city's identity. We are standing on top of a buried past."
Mukhtaridze's words lit a small but significant spark, ignited broader conversations, even beyond academic circles. Podcasts, video essays, and grassroots historical projects began to emerge. The truth is slowly demanding its place. The events of the past may hold the key to understanding the astonishing shift now unfolding in Tbilisi. In 2024, the city recorded something extraordinary. A majority of its population now identifies as Muslim. Is this a rebirth of a long-buried heritage, or a new chapter born from the forces of the modern world? Whatever the answer may be, one thing is certain. Tbilisi is not merely changing, it is returning. And as history begins to write itself anew, the world will be watching. No one expected that the revival of a civilization would begin in the narrow alleys of Tbilisi's Old Town. Not from political platforms or television screens, but from the soft voice of a young man reciting Al-Fatiha beneath a dim park lamp. From that quiet beginning, something new began to pulse, subtly but surely. In the early 2020s, the Juma Mosque of Tbilisi looked more like a relic than a living house of worship. It was occasionally visited by tourists, but barely a handful of locals. The call to prayer was often drowned by traffic and the chatter of hipster cafes nearby. Then, one autumn day in 2022, something shifted. A young imam from Dagestan, Ustaz Ali Musaev, arrived in the city as his social volunteer. He didn't bring crowds or bold declarations. He simply started a small Qur'an class for children in the mosque's back courtyard. Quiet, simple. But it turned out that was the beginning of something far greater. It began with 5 children, then 15. Within 3 months, more than 50 kids and teens were gathering every afternoon to learn the Arabic alphabet. Uninvited, their parents began to come. Some of them, native Georgians, had never previously encountered Islam. One of them was Nino Beritzi, a 34-year-old single mother who used to work at a nightclub cafe. She brought his son to class, but ended up becoming one of the most devoted attendees at Ustad Ali's Saturday night adult study circle. She said in an interview with a local YouTube channel, "I never knew peace like this existed. I used to drink to forget life. Now, I pray to face it." The video gained over 2 million views in a week. Signs of an Islamic revival in Tbilisi became hard to ignore. Perhaps most striking, in early 2023, the city's statistical office reported that religious conversions had increased by over 400%, making Islam the fastest-growing faith in Tbilisi. Unlike common stereotypes surrounding Islamic resurgence, this phenomenon was not driven by ideology or political ambition. There were no mass rallies, no revolutionary slogans. What emerged was a quiet search for meaning. Young men and women, many university-educated, began questioning the materialistic lifestyle. Many felt hollow within the dominant Western culture. In Islam, they found not just a religion, but answers, direction, and inner calm. "In the mosque, I'm not judged by clothes, status, or social media followers," said Levin, a former nightclub DJ who converted and now teaches tajweed. "I'm just a servant, trying to come home." The city government of Tbilisi watched cautiously at first. There were quiet concerns that the movement might be radical or politically motivated. But after dialogues with the local Muslim community and seeing the peaceful, legal, and organic nature of the changes, the stance began to soften. By the end of 2023, the Tbilisi City Council officially approved the construction of 2 new mosques, funded entirely by local Muslim donations with no foreign involvement. Tbilisi today is a city of contrasts, between old churches and new mosques, between bells and adhan, between a forgotten past and a growing future. What's clear is this: the Islamic revival in this city is not an explosion. It's a gentle wave, but one that's reshaping the spiritual landscape in permanent ways. This isn't just a religious revival, said Professor Tamta Gyorgadze, a sociologist from Ilyas University. It's a revival of consciousness. People aren't seeking God to fight. They're seeking Him for shelter. The year 2024 marked a historic turning point. With 90% of Tbilisi's population embracing Islam, the city underwent a complete transformation. Mosques flourished, halal restaurants became mainstream, and the Islamic lifestyle became the new norm. Although some Orthodox groups voiced concerns, the revival proceeded peacefully. The government officially recognized Tbilisi's new identity. The city didn't just change, it rediscovered itself. Amid these great changes, a question arose: can Islam and Georgia's Christian heritage coexist? Some conservative groups strongly opposed, but most citizens chose harmony. Interfaith dialogues were encouraged and local scholars continued to preach tolerance. Gradually, Tbilisi became a new model of diversity in Eastern Europe, a Muslim city that is open, inclusive, and peaceful. Tbilisi is now known worldwide as a symbol of modern Islamic revival. From a buried past, it rose to become an influential Muslim city that still values pluralism. Mosques, madrasahs, and dawah centers serve as spiritual and intellectual hubs. Young people don't just pray, they also study science, technology, and philosophy from an Islamic perspective. The world watches in amazement as Tbilisi proves Islam can rise not through power, but through knowledge, ethics, and love. Once famous for its glorious past, Tbilisi now creates a new future as the light of Islam in the heart of the Caucasus.